what's worked and what hasn't, how can tools be used in classrooms, was get even some feedback on was this helpful, but also what was missing, which we heard some good ideas around. Oh, were you? Okay. So that was my thinking for this, but Amanda's done this before as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute, Amanda, to just talk about how often,
what did we do?
in previous sessions you've had kind of this moment to reflect.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that we've always found useful when working with educators, we usually try to build in something at the end for just like ideas and skills sharing in a sense. So like we said that some of us are using census data in sort of different ways, or maybe using mapping in different ways. I had envisioned this being on big Post-its up on a wall. I didn't bring my big Post-its and there really isn't a wall. So I have little sort of big Post-its. If there were any ideas that came to you that you think you could like maybe adapt something that we talked about, or something you're already doing that you want to share with people, we can just like stick them somewhere and we can take pictures of them as a sort of resource. So I can pass I got like normal looking and bright looking depending on your persuasion. I stopped at Target and bought some random markers that I think will be helpful too. So we just like pass stuff around. I really tried to slide that to you, but I didn't. So yeah, just anything that came to you while we were talking, or also how you, maybe if you went around the fair and saw all these other amazing resources that are in the city, if there's anything from them that you could maybe integrate into what we talked about today. So just to sort of get it out, if you had any thoughts before it
Flies away. I always have this vision in my head of holding onto a helium balloon when I'm at things like this. And there's always that idea, and then but the minute I let go of the balloon.
Yep, so get it out before it disappears into our weekend.
I actually think that would have been helpful at the very beginning of the day where everybody's just like who they were and why they were here. Yeah, so maybe what they were doing.
Yeah, around the introduction to the
And then also understanding that one particular context and needs, because everyone's coming with a different set of needs.
Yeah, I've often done that as people are coming in to, like, what are you trying to get out of this kind of question, something like that. I know we did a 3-day teacher institute on the Vietnam War recently, which was quite a good thing. And all of them were like, what I want from this is a deeper understanding of why this happened. And we were all like, yes, too. But at least it was nice to know that what they were looking for was like some key understandings, and then we could shape what we talked about around that. So.
I thought it was useful to explain about the other ways people think about maps in the same space. Like just look at the History Center and I wrote it down, but what was the name of his organization?
Oh yeah, the National Humanities Center.
That was really interesting. You need to connect with them.
Yeah.
Are you connected with them? Yeah.
And I guess I was thinking about that. I have thought for a long time that the mapping of this model of GIS, it just takes on a whole new resonance. It's really about, it's kind of something that's so important in terms of the confluence of science and math and the humanities, that it really is such a powerful, transdisciplinary, the possibilities so strong here. And I think it's interesting to realize just how dispersed our work on map is, and as educators do and know to do with mapping. I'm just saying that's like a big, we need to work on this and really think about this, and when we bring together the way, what I love about what you guys are doing to create that is you created a tool that is being used globally to tell stories. And it's being used by, it's like a professional tool for journalists and for economists and all that. And so, yeah, it's not an easy use tool for teachers, but as an educator, it's very good to know that that is how that tool is, how our journalists tell those stories. You want young people to know about that, but they see it on the news, they might see it, incidentally, but they wouldn't know the workings of it. How is that happening? But then the humanities, what I loved about that example was the deer skin and the kind of mental model of the trading routes. That's just conceptually so interesting. So it's back to recognizing mapping as a transdisciplinary key educational thing that maybe shouldn't be worked on the way that we have been working on it, which is like, this little group doing this, and this little group doing this, and in the meantime, educators are up to their eyeballs just trying to struggle through with curricula that's in the way of this, and anyway, just that. But to me, it's got a real, I was glad you chose it. I was glad you chose it because I thought, maybe we're gonna pull it together, and try to work on this because it's so key. And we did have examples of how it could come together in a really interesting way.
Is there a community of practice for educators like you who want to get together and learn the great utility of digital mapping together? Is there a specific community? So Renee serves they're like our... Do they have an affinity group that focuses on things like that? Do you think they should?
And but I would make the suggestion, so I think about the Heinz History Center, the writing project, that it's like partly identifying it as an issue and then getting the key, some groups who could orchestrate, who could collaborate to create opportunities for educators to dig into that. But in some ways, I feel like we're still, I don't know if there are places around the country, I doubt it, kind of. I bet we're sort of like individual educators know, this could be important, but we haven't really figured it out.
I think that's actually a huge new opportunity that you're raising here. And the fact that, even Andy talking about the resources that they have, those are still not, if anything, you'd think that a scholarly organization like that that's also supposed to be helping teachers would be a place where there is already a resource, but I get the sense that there's not, honestly, right? There's obviously an understanding of what everybody was able to present that helped to open our eyes to different things as well. But to actually have the tools to do this, that part's still missing, and to do it in a way that's more inclusive and help to raise issues that students really care about. That's your point, Laura, about how about youth, how are they using these tools? That's not been connected.
I do wonder, I don't know the difference between ArcGIS and Esri. I know they're a thing together, but I've never understood that. But I wonder if they have a little bit of headway in some way. I know they do training for teachers, and I've seen them at a lot of conferences, having materials. But for them to be a part of it, they might have to have a little bit of background.
And I myself know about that, but do educators know about what? So it's ARC.
So do you?
ArcGIS.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference is between them and Esri. I'm looking at the map.
I think Esri makes ArcGIS.
Okay.
From what I remember from a class, and it could be outdated.
Sure.
2 years ago.
So I know that Esri is story maps. They do these wonderful and then I've always imagined that ArcGIS is sort of the back end of that, but I have no idea. But I see them at a lot of conferences.
social studies stuff.
Most people who might have a little bit of background to some of that.
Yeah, the Esri is the Environmental Systems Research Institute, and they're a supplier of geographic information systems, which is GIS.
Right.
GIS is a form of geographic information system.
Okay.
I don't mean to if somebody else knows this
Right,
offhand,
but they have the organizations at some level, so the pedagogical application is not something that they do.
And then I don't know if you would have times to the big history, but I know there are groups in the city that have done a big history project. But I was thinking about big history as another group that would be, a key group potentially, because it's where the sciences and history can come together and, just, but I do feel like, because we're working the way that it's been going on, this is just happening.
People want to stay in their own turf pit, they're not all agreeing on one question, all of those things. I feel like everybody kind of, it's been interesting working with all the partners here, because everybody does have their own buckets, there's a lot of overlap, but what was cool for New Americans to come in and sort of have a question and bring all these different experts and sort of have this overlap at the table, and it sounds like that's the kind of thing that should be happening more.
You make a good point, Margaret, and someday we're done here, is we also have to create space for the people who want to network around this, to be able to learn it and do it, and that's space you have to create with money. If we're being really crass, right? Fellowships or programs that allow people to release time from their day job, whether they're educators or designers, to engage in this.
Laura, that's kind of what you all had going with the cohort model of fluency, right? Is that it's a similar?
Is that what you're thinking? Because I think that's actually a really good idea. But when we do, like the writing project, we typically work in the summer, because that's when educators actually have a really more time. So if you were, I think if you were working with teachers on these kinds of projects, first of all, they need to actually roll up their shirt sleeves and, get into it, figure out places in their curriculum where they're going to work, where they could do this kind of work. So that's one kind of thing that I think could happen. But I do think there's another thing, which is that we're sort of talking about, like there are these people, and it's not just here in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's really, of course, around the country. But have we identified this, the idea of mapping as a transdisciplinary, potent place to work? And I'll just say, like, the writing project, the group that we played around with on this was a group out in San Francisco called NextMap, and they were doing work with paper circuitry and stuff like that. They came in and they had, you guys were involved. We had that little learning party, and we were doing the mapping, we were downloading apps, and we were mapping out where our stories were. We were telling stories. We then began to do the paper circuitry and lay out certain places, and then we programmed and kind of programmed into it. And that was kind of a little play date that we had around that kind of thing. But we didn't go beyond that, except to go into
Well, that's a question I've had about our time and other tools like it is. I'm not an educator and not in schools that often. Is there a demand for this kind of the technological fluency around mapping tools, or is that a demand that we're creating or trying to create?
It's not, I mean, here's the thing. It's like what's happening in schools right now, this is now my argument, is being driven by forces that are out of the hands of teachers and students and the like. It's just happening. So if we thought about it for a minute and realized, our students have cell phones, they have mapping tools in the cell phones. This is kind of a key thing right now in our world we have we have this sort of moment in history where we really need to understand the bigger story, then you might see it as being really important. But I'm just saying, that's not, teachers aren't the place. I mean, I'd love to, if we had more teachers around the table, I think they would say, like, we might like to do that. But when? Yeah, when are we doing that?
My challenge was I do work both in the community and in schools, and I feel like doing more a larger project and deeper diving around mapping as well as history as well as humanity and just like critical theory could happen more in like community-based settings where I could actually spend more time with youth versus like what constraints I have in school and in the classroom and having to be in compliance with standards. So that's like the challenge that I felt. I was really excited to come to this workshop because I was like, oh, mapping. I haven't done mapping outside of environmental policy management, doing things like that where we weren't necessarily mapping people and their stories. It was just, everyone was just data points and that was that. So I think for me, I've been challenged with like how can we just bridge that gap between data and information because we do have connectivity in a way that we never had. I think of kids and digital storytelling now, like TikTok and like everything, and it's like at every point, like youth have the ability to tell their stories, but like also how do we connect that to history and also connect that to like current social issues and the issues that youth care about in their lives and their communities and in their schools. I think that's like a really important thing to have. And so I also question the challenge of like, what can we do to make things that are youth-led and not just centered focused, and actually give youth like a critical theory to actually apply and a system analysis to apply when they're doing this work. Because it's like, it's really cool to talk about things that are interesting to them, but also like how can they connect this to like a larger issue and not just about like shoes or like athletes, you know, that they like, but like how can you do something with mapping? How can you do something with storytelling? How can this connect you with like the history and the challenges that you have in your life and in your family? So that's what I'm really interested in. And I also just think of who has access and legitimacy and validity in academia and research. And like I think that with all these digital tools, like we all have the ability now to like create media, but like it's about how and why we're doing it, what we're doing it. So yeah, I'm excited. I definitely want to connect with you and able to go to your table.
My table was underwhelming.
I really love, I've done lots of, and I think also when we're doing STEM work, like that's like been the big thing. It's very ubiquitous across the nation, but it's like, what are we doing and how are we creating, not just pushing youth and young people into those fields, but like how are we also like having kind of like a social justice and equity like kind of mindset already that's like built into going into these fields. I predominantly work with Black and brown youth, and it's like we're pushing Black and brown youth into the pipeline, into STEM, STEAM, maker fields, but like they're still experiencing so many different forms of prejudice, of misogyny, of transphobia, and all these things. And it's like, well, this is what you have to do in the industry. It's like that shouldn't be the way it is. Or like I think Pittsburgh also is a very college and research heavy city or big town. So it's like, how do we not just inundate, you know, communities that have been marginalized historically with just like another research idea or another project, but how do we actually get folks involved, schools involved, community involved? I think that if maybe we can't do this individually in schools as teachers, like maybe we can do something together as like a community to kind of do like a larger project where youth can come, teachers can come, and kind of co-construct this project outside of just like in school activity. These were my challenges. And then funding and capacity. Because Pittsburgh is very, very grant reliant. Sure. So it all depends on like who got the money and what they say you can use the money for.
Sure.
I just had a minor little brainstorm, really, just based on what you said there, Ash, because we have to do, and we want to do, and we're excited to do, a fourth event. Like once the 3 events have happened, bring people back together and show some insights that came out of this. But we don't want it to just be something where it's like showcasing insights that came out of this. We want it to be something that can be useful to the community and that can actually kind of help people move on. So here's my crazy idea. What if that fourth event is almost more like a charrette or some kind of moment where youth can design based on like what we've heard, like help to kind of prompt discussion by calling out some of the things that we've heard from our 3 events and discussions there. But then really have like Pittsburgh's next generation be the ones helping us determine what's next, right? We're designing around. So anyway, because I think it's like one of the things that's been rich about these moments for us, coming in from outside Pittsburgh, is that we've got youth like folks from Steel Town, or that particularly like J.B. Brown and the folks from the YMCA, Burston. I mean, he had some really neat ideas about what he wanted to like help his students have access to, and kind of putting that more in the center feels like something we have to be thinking about. Thoughts from
I mean, youth-led participatory design would be amazing. I think that if we could get maybe some developers in the room as well to talk about these sorts of things. And we'd love to be part of that event if that sort of thing happens.
All right, it's almost 3 o'clock. We're all probably pretty drained. Any last thoughts, ideas? We are very grateful to you. This is actually really helpful, just even right now, to get some ideas down. Thank you all so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And we'll do Laura and I wrote a blog post for that first event, and do some kind of collection of, like, here's what happened at the second event, and here are some ideas that came out of that. So that will come out next Friday, but we'll let you know. You'll hear about it.
Fantastic.
Thank you all. Yeah. So we can put this together.
And then, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll stay for the debrief. That was very.
And thank you, Chris, for being here. We appreciate it on many levels, so.
Ash, I'm sorry.
Thanks for having
I
us.
saw the beginning. Should we exchange?
So good one. I know it's a big, like, chunk of